Welcome to the Coaching Summit 2025, this year with a theme of diversity, equity, inclusion and belonging, and brought to you by In Good Company, a global coaching training organisation bringing you coaching qualifications and ongoing CPD for coaches. If you're inspired to continue your learning, then be sure to check out our website at igcompany.co.uk. But for now, we invite you to sit back and enjoy the amazing lineup that we have for you today from our expert speakers who all share a passion for our theme of diversity, equity, inclusion and belonging. Enjoy!
All right, welcome everybody to our next session. I am so excited to share this one with you and to introduce the amazing Laura Birch. Laura is the founder of the Progression Place and an EMCC senior practitioner, executive coach, and her focus is on empowering leaders to unlock purposeful progression by creating supportive yet stretching spaces that foster growth, clarity, and authentic leadership. Isn't that, love that mission. That's what we're all here for. So thank you so much, Laura, for being here. I'm just going to pin you so that everyone can, here we go. Spotlight for everyone. Spotlight came up. And here we go.
You've already had this.
So much. Can you hear me okay and see me okay?
Yep, we're all good, Laura.
Lovely. Thank you. Brilliant. So welcome everybody to this session around spirituality as an act of inclusion.
You had my biscuits, you had them first.
Oh, I can hear someone on mute. You might want to put yourselves on mute. I can hear someone talking about some biscuits, which sound very lovely, but might not be what everybody's here for the session for today. So if I can just ask, while you're not participating, if you don't mind popping yourselves on mute. But welcome to this session around spirituality as an act of inclusion. Coaching beyond identity labels. As Gwen said, my name's Laura Birch. I'm an executive coach and facilitator. And just by way of background, I've spent around about 17 years in professional services, coaching and developing individuals from graduates and apprentices right through to partners and managing directors. My last role was as an internal executive coach, where I coached around about 60 directors through to partnership. And I now run my own coaching and leadership development business, the Progression Place, where I largely support leaders across a variety of different organisations and sectors. Particularly during periods of transition and supporting them into making purposeful progression and sustainable performance, whatever that means for them. On a personal note, I am a proud solo parent by choice via adoption to my beautiful 8-year-old daughter. I'm a daughter, a sister and a friend myself. I'm passionate about spreading goodness through personal development. And ultimately, I see us as being spiritual beings having a human experience. I'm hoping even just by sharing a little bit about myself there, you've started to get a picture of who I am. But I'm also very aware that I've used many labels to describe my identity. And that's because labels are many more important to many of us for many reasons. And we've heard about that in some of the sessions that have already taken place today. But to me, they're not everything. In our session today, I'm going to invite us to think about taking a soulful approach to belonging, presence and wholeness in coaching, enabling us to coach beyond identity labels to something deeper. I've popped on the screen what you can expect from the session today, but broadly it's going to be quite a reflective space. You'll have time to digest what you're hearing. I'll be kind of talking with some space for you to do some reflection and journaling yourself for about 25 minutes, and then there will be some time for some questions at the end. So please do pop your questions as you go through, pop your reflections as you go through, and we'll make sure we have time for as many of those as possible. I really also hope that you leave today with at least 3 practical ways that you can bring what we talk about into your coaching practice straight away. So whether you are a new coach, an experienced coach, or simply somebody wanting to bring a coaching approach into how you lead and work with others, please get yourself comfortable. Hopefully you've had a chance to grab yourself a pen and paper so you can join in with some of the self-reflection prompts and really just give yourself some space to honour whatever it is that arises for you during this time. I also wanted to share my intentions for this space. The first one being is that I'm coming here today with positive intent. I, like many others today, will be sharing our worldview, our experience, our beliefs. But linked to the second point here, I really do welcome difference and nuance. I appreciate that we don't all have to agree on everything. That's okay. And so I would really encourage you to keep that kind of open and curious mind, but taking away what resonates with you, but just leaving here whatever doesn't. We're honouring your choice to participate in a way that feels right for you. So, as I say, it is a reflective session, but don't hold your questions until the end. Pop them into the chat just so that they can be live for you at that time, and we'll respond when we get an opportunity. And I'm hoping that more than this just being informational, this is a session where we will hold space for depth and reflection, and that you can actually think about your own practice and what spirituality as an act of inclusion means for you. So as we begin, I'd really like us to invite us to do some grounding into the space. You may have attended one of the thought-provoking sessions earlier, as I did, or you may have come from an entirely different meeting. So this is just an opportunity to settle yourself in, distractions off, presence on, and if you're comfortable to, then just take a moment to gently close your eyes or soften your gaze as I guide you through kind of a meditation, mindful exercise. So just allow your body to relax. Let your hands rest comfortably. And just begin to arrive right here in this moment. Just take a deep breath in and feel the air moving through your nose, down into your chest and into your belly. Exhaling slowly and just letting go. Again, inhaling your own pace and rhythm, and then exhaling. Just letting your breath anchor you softly and steadily. Just allow yourself to ground into this space and this time and this choice to be here. Now bring your intention inwards. Notice your body and any tension that may be held. You may wish to gently move it. Notice your heartbeat and your breath. And just feel yourself arriving fully. Not as a label or as a role, but as a whole being. Present, enough, and alive. And now gently bring your awareness to your why. Why have you chosen to be here today? What is it that drew you to this space and this conversation? Let the answer just rise gently, not from your thinking mind, but perhaps from the quiet wisdom beneath it. Perhaps it's a longing to grow or to connect. Maybe to coach or to lead with more wholeness. To see and be seen more fully. Whatever it is, just welcome it and hold it gently and let it settle. Reminding yourself that you belong here as you are. And just take one more deep breath in.
Are you talking? Sweet.
And exhale slowly. And then when you're ready, just begin to bring your awareness back to the room. Just wiggle your fingers or your toes. And if your eyes were closed, just gently allow yourself to blink them open. Welcoming yourself again to the space and letting us begin. So hopefully that gave you a few moments to reconnect to why you've chosen to be here. And if you're comfortable or you want to, please feel free to share that in the chat so that others can resonate with what it is that you're sharing. But again, there's no pressure in this session. It's just about you reflecting. Please do share if you're comfortable. And if not, just note that for yourself. Why is it that you're here? But I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the genuine and meaningful effort many organisations are making around diversity, equity, inclusion and belonging. Policies are shifting in many places and representation is improving with others, whilst not perfect. More people are being invited into rooms that they were once excluded from. And whilst there's much more to do, that progress matters. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. But inclusion, as it's often practiced, in my view, can stop at the surface. Yes, somebody may be in the room. Yes, they may be represented in the data, but are they truly seen? What got me thinking was when I was coaching one of my clients, somebody you would describe typically as a thoughtful, highly regarded, successful leader. And they said something that really stayed with me. They said, yes, I'm represented, but I'm not recognised. And this person ticked every DEI box on paper. They were visible, included on panels, plenty of panels actually, celebrated as a success story. But inside, they felt invisible. And that was arriving in the coaching. And that to me points to something deeper, something that inclusion efforts can overlook, that need for inner recognition. Not just being included as a category, but really being recognised as a whole person. Not just what you represent, but really about who you are. So I'd invite you to just pause for a moment and feel that deeper human need. To be met not just as a role or identity, although we hold many of those, and as we said, they have their place and are important, but really as full, complex spiritual beings, a being with history, with presence, with soul, and with energy. And this to me is where coaching has a vital role. And this is where spirituality for me enters the conversation. Not in a religious sense necessarily, but as a commitment to depth, to presence, and to wholeness. When we hold space as coaches, we're not just asking, how do you identify? Although, of course, that is important. We're also asking, do you feel recognised? And even deeper than that, we're asking, do you feel seen? Does all parts of you feel seen? And that to me is spiritual inquiry. It's that quiet, courageous work of inclusion that moves beyond labels and it moves into relationships and then into essence. I'd like us just to shift our attention now from what it is that we do as coaches to what we bring as coaches. Because beyond the tools and the models and the questions and the frameworks, all of which have their place and are used and are really important, coaching to me, first and foremost, is an energetic relationship. If I can just ask you to call to mind for a moment, perhaps a coaching session that really moved you, not just intellectually, but perhaps energetically. It might have been one of those moments where something shifted in the room, and that wasn't because of what was said, but because of what was felt. Maybe your client took a deep breath, said something like, wow, I've never said that out loud before. Or maybe there was a long pause and you didn't rush to fill it. And then in that silence, something profound emerged. These moments are really tricky to teach. They aren't always in coaching curriculums. And that to me is because they live in that field between coach and client. They're not always visible, but they are really powerful, and they happen when our presence does the work more than our words. I wanted to kind of share and offer a few ways I've come to understand spiritual dimension of coaching, not as something out there, but as something actually quite deeply practical and human. Years ago, I trained in Reiki. Some of you may be familiar with Reiki, which is an energy healing modality based on channeling energy rather than forcing it. But what this taught me from a coaching perspective was that we really need to let the insight come through us, not from us. Reminding ourselves that the client's wisdom is already there, and our job is really to hold that space, not to fill it. To really allow that clarity to emerge rather than to direct it. I've also practiced mindfulness for around about 20 years, thanks to my late dad. Really learning to pay attention without grasping and without judging. And in coaching, what this reminds me is that our attention is the intervention. When we're offering our undivided presence, it's communicating something subconsciously, something that's often wordless, but it's telling our clients that they matter. It's telling our clients that they're safe. And it's telling our clients that they can unfold. They can just be exactly how they are. Attention to me in this form is love, and it's not in a sentimental way, but in a deeply human way. And then we've got wisdom traditions. So some of you may be familiar with some of the old wisdom traditions. I would describe myself as an integrative or a holistic coach. So I take different things from different places and bring them into my coaching practice. Some of you will do similar. But what wisdom traditions have taught me is that stillness is not the absence of action, it's the condition for insight. And some of the most transformative coaching moments I've noticed come from when we stop doing and really allow the truth to surface on its own. You'll notice that none of this really requires spiritual language. We don't have to be talking about energy or chakras or divine guidance unless it's resonant for your clients or they choose to bring that into the conversation. As coaches, we can bring spiritual depth through our presence, by the way we listen, by the ability to trust the silence and to follow the energy, and really to meet our clients as whole beings, beyond labels, beyond their roles, and beyond even the presenting issue. Coaching then becomes an energetic relationship, not because we're doing something magical, but because we're being someone spacious enough for truth to emerge. And that to me is a spiritual act. So if coaching is an energetic relationship, a space where presence matters as much as process, then what does it actually look like to coach with soul? I wanted to just share 3 grounded, really practical ways that cultivate spiritual depth without requiring the spiritual language. To me, these are tools, but they're also invitations to slow down, to sense more deeply, and to really trust the deeper intelligence in the room. So the first is the sacred pause. So in our fast-paced world, the drive to get somewhere, be something, do something, as many of us can probably empathise with, often takes over, even in coaching. But transformation doesn't move at the pace of productivity. It needs space, it needs stillness, and it needs breath. And the sacred pause is simply a choice to interrupt momentum, not to jump or rush into the next question, not to step in with a tool or framework, but really to let the moment breathe before the method arrives. So in practical terms, you might say something like, let's just pause for a moment, or before we move on, can we just stay with that for a moment or for a breath or two? And in that pause, very often something opens and clients often go deeper. New awareness arises for them. Not because we've added something as a coach, but because we didn't rush past it. That silence can become a healing modality, which is telling our clients, again, at that kind of energetic level, you don't have to hurry, there's wisdom here. The second point I wanted to call out is around energetic listening. So we're all trained to listen for content, for themes, for patterns. But to me, soul-centered listening invites us to tune in more deeply. It's listening with our body, listening with our intuition, and even our breath. This is about sensing what's unspoken and noticing subtle shifts in tone, in emotion, or presence, and being willing to follow that energy, not just the narrative or the story. So, for example, you might say something like, I noticed you paused just then. I'm wondering what was behind that. Or there's something in the way you said that. It feels like it may carry more weight. This kind of listening is really about honouring the unseen. It's telling our clients, I'm not just listening to what you're saying, but I'm listening to what's trying to be said. Energetic listening isn't about performance, but it is about attuning to our client and also trusting our own felt sense. If something in our gut or in our body signals pause or depth, there's an invitation there to follow it. And then finally, thinking about naming the essence. So this is the practice of seeing and reflecting your client's being, not just what they're doing. So while coaching often focuses, and rightly so, on goals, actions, steps, soul-centered coaching, or at least coaching with that lens, listens for qualities and those deeper truths that are trying to come forward. So if you're coaching someone, for example, struggling with a decision, you might say something like, even in your frustration, I'm hearing your care for what really matters. Or you sound uncertain and, so using that magic and word, I sense that your inner clarity is here. So these reflections are naming something that often goes unnamed. They're affirming the identity beyond the circumstance and underneath it. So it's telling our clients they are clarity, they are courage, and they are compassion. And when clients hear their essence reflected back, it can be like holding up a mirror to their soul. It doesn't always fix the problem, but it reminds them who they are inside of it, and that can make a whole world of difference. These three practices are not just techniques, they're really about intentional acts of presence, of reverence, and of recognition. And as you can see, you don't need spiritual language to use them, you just need to be there fully with your client, moment by moment. This to me is coaching as spiritual practice and coaching as inclusion, not just welcoming the client's story, but welcoming their soul. So I'm aware that I've shared a fair bit with you, and so I'd like to invite you to take a few moments, probably around about 5 minutes, just for yourself to self-reflect on what it is that you've heard. I've put some prompts up on the screen. You can use all of them, you can use one of them, or you can use none of them. Go with your own energy and where you want to self-reflect. What I'm going to do is to be here. I'm going to keep us to time. I'm going to let you know when you have around about 3 minutes remaining, and then I will let you know when you have another minute remaining and bring you back. So if you want to go off camera at this point, you're welcome to. If you're somebody who likes to listen to music in the background, please feel free to do that, but just keep yourselves on mute. And I will see you in a few minutes. I will just be here holding the space. I will see you in a few minutes once you've had a chance to do some self-reflection. I'm going to invite us to have 2 more minutes. And if you just want to take 1 more minute, I appreciate you won't have been able to finish everything. But if anything's come up for you that you think would be helpful to share for yourself or with others, please feel free to pop that in the chat so that others can benefit from your reflections too. And obviously this is recorded, so you can look back at the prompts and do some further reflection in your own time. So as we start to explore coaching as a space of deeper presence, it's really important to stay rooted in ethics. Soul-centered coaching is never about influence or direction. It's not about having the answer or even guiding someone towards our idea of truth. But to me, it's about creating a space where clients' own wisdom can emerge. And that means staying grounded and staying ethical and staying invitational. I've put together an ethical integration in coaching checklist. If you'd like a copy, please feel free to email me using the QR code or the email address on the screen. But just to give you a bit of a flavour of that, you can see there are a couple of areas there. So the first is around relational and ethical grounding. So reflecting for ourselves, am I staying client-led at all times? Am I honouring their language and not overlaying mine? Am I being clear on where coaching ends and therapy or spiritual direction begins? Then when we think about language and accessibility, am I using inclusive, neutral language? Have I checked for the client's comfort with depth before going there? And am I prepared to shift course if the client signals discomfort? When we think about presence and pace, it's asking ourselves, am I allowing space for insight without the rushing or directing? Have I paused to let the client's own meaning emerge? And am I trusting their inner timing, not mine? And then finally, when we think about self-awareness, the starts of things that we might want to kind of check with ourselves are, am I aware of my own beliefs, triggers or desires for the session? Am I projecting my experience or genuinely sensing theirs? And am I practicing ongoing reflection or supervision to keep check of all of this? So as we move into the close of the content side of the session and before we open for any questions, I just wanted to offer one final reflection. Many of us aim to create safe spaces in our coaching, spaces that are full of respect, of non-judgment and of care. But what if we allowed coaching to become something more, perhaps a sacred space? Again, not in a religious sense necessarily, but in the sense of being very intentional, being very present and deeply human, and a space where nothing needs to be hidden, where all of a person, whether that's their voice, their story, their spirit, are welcome. And again, this doesn't require special words or rituals. It's really just about providing that attention and presence and being intentional with that. Before each session, you might quietly ask yourself questions like, what energy am I bringing? Or what does this client need from me energetically, not just tactically? I found that these small inner pauses can really create a space that's not just safe, but sacred, and where clients really are not only feeling seen, but they're feeling met. I also wanted to leave you with a hope. May we be coaches who listen fully, pause bravely, and welcome the whole person. May our presence create space for truth, not just for answers, And may our work remind us all that inclusion is not just policy, but presence. I really appreciate you being here, for showing up and for doing this work with depth and care. I would love to connect with you online. The best place to do that for me is via LinkedIn. I've put a QR code and a link to my LinkedIn profile on the screen, but you can also find me on email or via my website. So that brings us to the end of the content side. And if we've got time, I'll just pass to Gwen to see if we've got any questions that have come through.
We do have time and we do have questions.
Okay.
The first question I'm seeing is, do you notice a difference in how much you connect with the whole person when online versus in person?
Oh, great question. And actually, I've reflected on this, and I think it's for me in different ways, because when I'm meeting someone for the first time, you can pick up almost on the energy around them and around the space. So you can kind of connect with that kind of whole person, their physicality, I guess, in a different way to when you are online. That being said, I think I still do probably at least 75% of my work online. And so it's, to me, it's not a hindrance if you are, again, being intentional with what you're bringing into the space.
Great answer. Next, we have, there has been some conflictions. Okay, here we go. Conflictions of the use of neutral language in the talk so far today. Neutral language can erase people's experiences was the last message, but in this, we are encouraging to use neutral language. Is trying a balanced approach to this the way forward, or is this on a case-by-case basis? That's a great question.
Brilliant question. And I've been in the sessions this morning, and brilliant, insightful topics. And I guess my view on this is it's really about being client-led. So again, it's staying curious, it's asking kind of open questions. So when we're talking about, for me, when I'm talking about neutral language, it's not about kind of one size fits all, but it's around not overlaying my language as much as possible. Again, I think there was a point that Michelle raised in the session prior. And if you haven't watched it, obviously there's a recording, you can go back and watch that. But just about us being human and kind of acknowledging that relationship with our coachees to say, do you know, actually, what does this mean for you? Well, as we're talking about this, how is this landing for you? That for me makes the world of difference, not making assumptions and not jumping in with my view, but actually kind of really listening to what and asking what's going to be right for my client.
Yeah, absolutely. And to me, that neutral language isn't about erasure. No. Like Michelle says, it's very dangerous to see it at surface level.
Yeah.
And at surface level, that's what happens. But what I'm hearing from you, Laura, is this is about going deeper. So of course, absolutely, we allow people's, all the different intersections of someone to be and all of the nuances, but then we go deeper and we say, and you as a being in this space beyond all of these systems, yeah, you also have a place. So how are you as a being able to show up?
Absolutely. It's definitely not kind of mutually exclusive. There's this part, but then actually when we go a layer deeper than that as well, depending on where the client wants to go, we can look at both. So yeah, absolutely, Gwen.
Yeah, and it's always, what did you contract for and what's in service?
Absolutely.
Right.
Back to our basics, our 101s. What did you contract for? Where does the client want to go? Completely.
Any tips to stay centered most of the time in life?
Ooh, big question. I don't think I'm equipped to answer that, to be honest. But anyway, I will give it a go. I can tell you what I do, and I will say that, as I said, as a somebody who's running their own business, solo parent. There's lots of balls in the air that don't always get held up there. Let me just say that from a real human perspective. But what has really helped me, and this has been practice over time, is to just do small things. So even before coming onto this session, I was telling Gwen that naturally I'm quite a high energy person. This session, actually, I've had to drop down to kind of guide you all through mindful and different practices. So just to kind of anchor, like I've literally got my feet planted on the floor. I'm imagining that there's kind of a string up above. I'm kind of centering myself. I literally walk around the garden beforehand to kind of ground myself physically into the earth. I use music and I do use mindful based practices and my breath a lot. So all of those things, depending on what's going on, I describe as critical. for all of that grounding and the centering. And if you see me on a day when I haven't been doing that, you'll feel the difference. Is probably
That's what I always say about parenting. Sometimes when I do the things I'm supposed to do, it works. But man, you can tell when I'm not doing the things.
brilliant. Absolutely. Yeah, definitely can resonate with that, Gwen.
Yeah. Do you offer this type of coaching in the workplaces? Are there obstacles you see, and how do you overcome these? I think that's a great question.
Yeah, it is. And yes, I do. So again, the vast majority of my coaching is with corporate clients, and as I say, very often, although not exclusively, with senior leaders within organisations. And I definitely bring that in. Again, to Gwen's point earlier, definitely linked to kind of contracting and meeting the client where they're at. So when I meet them, very often I am meeting them, first of all, with whatever social identity label that they've given either themselves or has been given to them, or their role or their title or what they're there for, their goal. That's the starting point of where we start. But again, in the contracting in the space and the developing of the relationship, I naturally bring these in, maybe not overtly. First of all, it may be through, again, how I am with the coachees. And then as we build that relationship and as that trust builds, then maybe I'll offer or gently kind of bring that in a bit more overtly if that's something that they're open to. But I definitely take that on a case by case. But absolutely, I will bring it in. It will just depend on meeting the client where they are, rather than, again, it's not about my agenda that I want to coach in this way. It's thinking about what's going to be right for my client.
It reminds me of that statement you made earlier about, the magic and word. So this is an and, it's not an or. You don't have to do one or the other. You can hold both with reverence and with sincere space, that you can have all the intersectional lenses and know that they're not something to be dismissed, and that there's something sacred just within them. And there's also the individual who kind of goes through life as a part of that.
Absolutely. And all those things, right, that we've been talking about today, we'll continue to talk about today. It's definitely not kind of dismissing those. It's how do we do both and find that balance.
Yeah. I have one final question for you. So I want to ask the question a different way with more context. Any resources or tips on this one, please? How can I hold sacred space even under pressure?
I'm curious. My first question is around even under pressure, and I'm curious. My coaching hat's come on. What's causing the pressure? Where's that pressure coming from? So I'm asking that as a starting point. But I guess if I'm taking this question as there's a dynamic, for example, you're coaching, you might be in a workplace environment, you may have kind of a job to do, you may have had a tripartite type conversation, and there's that pressure to coach this goal, to get this goal complete. That's how I'm taking the question, but please pop if that's not correct. Again, for me, it comes back to, I often say to clients, we need to be really clear on what your goal is, but how we end up getting there, in my style, so I'll talk about this in chemistry, is likely to be fluid. So it's not going to be this, and this, but it's because I'm going to be meeting you where you are. We're going to be connecting kind of depending on your energy, depending on where things go. So we will get there, but that will end up being the byproduct. So for example, I used to coach a lot around promotion, and I would say to people, I can't promise that you will get that promotion. Very often, promotion is what we do will help you to reach that goal. Absolutely. But what I hope that you get from coaching is far beyond that promotion, and will help you in your leadership and your general humanity beyond that, because again, we're talking at that soul level. So I guess in the moment, again, for me, it's noticing when I'm feeling that pressure, that tension, feeling it. For me, I kind of feel that I talk faster, which again, I've talked about slowing down today. That's going to be a forever learning for me. And I just notice what's happening and try to settle my body. So I might say some simple words to myself like be still, or calm now, or it's okay, and just then re-anchor back to the client.
Re-anchor back to the client. I love that. Well, thank you so much, Laura.
You're
We can talk
welcome.
all day. I really appreciate you.
No worries.
Everybody else, thank you for being here and prioritizing this. We've still got half a day to go, so please don't miss out on the great offerings that we have. But Laura, any final words you'd like to share?
Just thank you so much for being here. Yeah, it's been a really enjoyable session. And if you are interested, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn so we can continue the conversation there.
Fantastic.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.